Hi guys, welcome back to Winsome Cottage Farm. My name is Hannah. I'm so glad you could join us today. Today we are doing some seed starting. About 3-4 weeks away from my last frost date here in Michigan. May 27th is actually it. The weather's looking really great, so while I am tempted to put some things outside, there are others that I'm not going to, just because they really need some warmer temperatures and protection so they can get a good start on life. Since I'm around that 4-week mark, I'm going to be doing a lot of zinnias. I'm also doing some squash, which is something you could probably direct sow. My last frost date in the spring is late, May 27th, and my first frost date in the fall is early. It's like mid-October. So I don't have a very long growing season, so I do like to start some things inside. You just have to be careful to make sure you're giving them a large enough container so your roots aren't constrained at all, and I find that it will help me get a better crop. I also am going to take a risk. I had some transplant shock with a lot of my tomato seedlings when I up potted them this year. I lost all of my cherry tomatoes. I don't really lose a lot by sowing them again and seeing if I can get them to grow on quickly. They'll be delayed in how long it takes me to get fruit from them. However, cherry tomatoes are usually some of the earlier producers, so I figure it's worth trying. I mean, the worst case scenario, I'm out a couple seeds, and they're seeds that I had that as they get older, their germination rates go down. So it's not really losing a lot. My brother is here. You might see him walking behind. He is actually helping me a lot with this. The first thing that I do, my brother filled these for me with warm, he pre-moistened my not potting soil. This is all seed starting mix, which is better because it's a lot more loamy. It doesn't obviously have a lot of nutritional value for the plants, but it helps them get started, and then you usually plant them into something with nutritional value. So this is a giant 50 count tray of zinnias that I am getting started. I'm doing a lot of varieties of zinnias because I love using them as cut flowers in arrangements. I think they're one of the best. They can be a showstopper, they can be a filler. They're just in general really great. These are either from Johnny's Seeds or Eden Brothers. There might be a Baker Creek or two in some of the vegetables we're going to plant today. Those are the 3 main places I buy my seed. Most of these I'm going to stick 3 seeds in a pot. You could do 2. Most of these are about 2 or 3 years old, which means their germination rate is going to go down a little bit. So I like to up it to 3 seeds, and I figure I don't lose a lot. Put them about 1/4 inch deep. Johnny's Seeds is really great about adding a ton of directions on their seed packets. They're not very pretty on the front, but they give you a lot of information about how to grow things and how to harvest and improve vase life and all those kind of things. So I'm gonna plant these. These happen to be the Queen Red Lime, which is actually probably my favorite zinnia. So what I'm gonna do, like I said, is just take 1, 2, 3 seeds, and I already put 3 in here, and then I do it about 1/4 inch deep. It's not an exact science. Some things, if it's like doesn't want to be covered, don't cover it, but in general, if you just kind of tap it in, it's good. So I'm just gonna go through and get all these seeds in. I'll speed it up, and then I will do a quick roundup of the different kinds that I'm planting this year and show a picture of them on the screen when I'm done. So I got everything in, and now I just need to put them to bed. and that's really all that's to it. You saw me put the vermiculite on. I just sprinkle it on top, and I'm gonna put this aside for now, but before I take it inside, I will spray it down so that it's damp, and then it can help the seed settle in just a little bit. The kinds of zinnias that I am growing this year, and I'm just gonna rattle through these and pop a picture from the place I bought it up on the screen. I'm gonna do three. I'm doing mostly three of things because my yard's not big. You guys already know that. I'll put some of these at the cottage, but most of these are just for my enjoyment, and I don't need a flat of each kind. So I've got 3 of the Jazzy mix, 3 cactus flowers mix, 3 Benary's giant zinnias. Actually, that's a lie. I have some in another spot. 3 Lilliput white, 3 Pumila a mix, so it's a cut and come again mix, 3 Oklahoma pink, 3 Oklahoma ivory, 3 Oklahoma salmon, 3 of a giant dahlia, which is like a deep red, and then I do 4 of just the general Oklahoma mix, 4 Sonora, 5 Cinderella peach, you can tell which ones I like the most, 5 queen lime with blush, and 5 queen lime red. Okay, so I'm gonna put my flat of zinnias down on the ground, and I'll water them in when I water everything else in. The next flat I'm actually doing is a lot smaller. I don't have any more of those big trays. So in this flat, I'm restarting all the cherry tomatoes and some more, because I figured, well, if I can't get exactly what I want, I will see what I can get. And the worst case scenario, I can buy some plants. I just won't be able to find my favorite varieties that way, which is a massive bummer. But the first thing I'm actually going to show is not a tomato. This is actually a cucamelon, which is a Mexican sour gherkin. I love these. I don't actually grow a lot of cucumbers because I can't keep up with them. I wish I had the discipline to pickle. That moment where you're like, do I have any seeds? Or did I put an empty packet away? Okay, no. Empty this packet because there's not a ton in here, and these guys do have a low germ rate, and I bought these seeds a couple of years ago. So cucamelon, I've heard cucamelons are hard to plant or hard to germinate. I've never actually had a problem with them. So I don't have any great tips for it, just making sure that you put a number of seeds in. So I say I don't have a problem with it. I'm gonna put 5 or 6 seeds in one of these cells and hope that I get one. They are itty bitty, like maybe an inch to an inch and a half, maybe. And they look like itty bitty watermelons, but they are a cucumber. And they are like a nice burst of citrus is the only thing that I can really think to describe them as. They're great in salads. You can pickle them. I generally eat them as a snack, fresh off the vine. They do take a long time to germinate, so don't give up hope if you are having problems. The next thing we're gonna plant is Kajari melons. They look like this. You can see that I opened this packet the wrong way one year, and I've just taped it and kept it. Kajari melons are like personal watermelon. I would say they're a combination between like they're a muskmelon, but they remind me a lot of a honeydew. They're really tasty. They're better than cantaloupe. They're really great with prosciutto. I'm actually gonna be planting 4 of these plants in my very small space, so that's how much I like them. These seeds I'm actually going to be planting in slightly larger containers because they are one that they don't like their roots disturbed a lot. This size will see them through to when they get planted outside, but I know if I planted them in a smaller cell it would not end well. Next up is another melon, and it is a sugar baby watermelon. And I'm going to be planting 2 of these. And this is for a fun project that I'm not quite ready to explain yet. But just like I'm planting my Kajari melons in bigger ones, these guys are being planted in even bigger ones, as will the squash that we are seeding today. Because they're ones that they really don't like it if you mess with their roots when you transplant them. It can stump them and it means they don't do anything. So that means I go big. Sugar babies I've only grown once with limited success, and it was mostly my fault. I put it in a spot it didn't have enough space. Though I just need to tell you guys, if you guys live in a place where there are ticks, these seeds, can you see them? They look so much like ticks. It really freaks me out a little bit. The next variety that I'm growing one of is a Blaze pumpkin. This is an F1 hybrid from Johnny's. These guys are really fun. They're, I'll put a picture on the screen, but they're like orange with these yellowy colored stripes, and they're small, but one plant will produce a lot of them. Next up is, and this is really sad, this is a Casperita pumpkin, which is another hybrid from Johnny's that I bought last year, and I put them out a tiny bit too early and they died in a frost. And I never got around to resowing them. Partly because I couldn't find the packet. And then I think what had happened was it had actually fallen out of a basket that as I finished I put the seeds in. And it had fallen out of it, fallen to the sides. And I didn't discover this until after my dogs had ripped it up. So I saved the seeds I could, because they liked the paper, not the seeds. And kind of stuck it away. Today I was literally going crazy trying to find the seeds because I was like, I know I have Casperita, where is it? And then I found this sad little bag that all that's left is that, and I was like, that's Casperita. I'm 99% sure. I'll be surprised if it's not. The last squash or pumpkin we're going to show is actually a spaghetti squash. Now we're getting into the fun stuff. This one I've never grown. This is a black cherry tomato from Baker Creek. So I'm just going to make a divot in the soil that, just like I did with the zinnias, I'm going to go through and seed everything, then I'll cover them at the end. These are so fine though. Do you see them? Itty bitty. Since these are brand new seeds, I'm only going to do 2 per cell. And what I'll probably do, because they'll probably all germinate because they're fresh, if I have to, I'll split them out and just give some to people who might want slow seedlings. This one is actually blue cream berries tomato. This is my second favorite cherry. They're really tasty. They're really sweet. They tend to burst in the rain a little bit, but not as much as the Napa Chardonnay because they are so sweet. They actually have very thin skins, and so after rains a lot of times they burst. So if you've got rain coming, you should go get it quick. This one is a Chadwick cherry tomato, which happens to be my mom's favorite cherry tomato. I think it's good. I mean, it's your basic red cherry tomato. It's an heirloom, so it's got more flavor. It's definitely better than store-bought. Because as Jessica Sowards from Roots and Refuge Farm likes to say, store-bought tomatoes taste like disappointment. I actually don't eat store-bought tomatoes. I didn't know I liked tomatoes until I started growing my own. And I mean, I'll be honest, the first time I grew them, it's just, they're so satisfying to grow. And then I grew some that I really liked, and I started experimenting with different varieties and different colors, and now I like all of them. Next, and this is one I've never grown before, this is a Jasper, which is another red cherry hybrid. This one is by Johnny Creek. I've already sowed some this year that I'll show you. They're not doing well, which is why I was like, let's try it one more time. Next up is a blueberries, which is related to the cream, just not yellow. It's a red base. This guy is prolific, highly satisfying to grow. It is pretty tasty too. It's got a nice full flavor. I actually hadn't been planning on growing any this year because I was being more selective about my space. But now I'm just trying to get cherry tomatoes. And I know this one will grow, so I'm gonna plant them. And last up in the tomatoes is my favorite, Napa Chardonnay. They are just so, so good. So that is all of the tomatoes. Let me quickly cover them. And that didn't quite fill up this cell pack. So I'm going to, you guessed it, plant some more zinnias. Some Benaria's giant zinnias. They're a classic. They're a little big for my yard, and I could buy the colors I like, but I like just buying a mix and being surprised. But then I get colors like last year, I think I got all orange. Bachelor buttons, they always, their seeds remind me of like mini little badminton dudes. So it's not like my must grow, but if I have an extra space, that's gonna go to waste. Bachelor buttons. Okay, so that is actually all of the seeds. The last thing I want to do is pot a couple dahlias up. Each year I allow myself to buy one dahlia, whether it's a mix or a kind. And this year I went with a mix from Eden Brothers called the Tender Mix. It came to me a couple weeks ago. They're crying to be put into pots. So what we're gonna do, take all of these pots that Sean pre-filled a couple inches in the bottom for me, and I'm gonna get the tubers out and stick them in. And I can show you a little closely how I'm gonna cover them. This is just a mix, and dahlias, if you're not familiar with them, they come in clusters. And so this is like the body, this is a neck, which is very fragile, but then the growth points come up here, and these guys act as tubers that feed the growth. So there's one obviously growing with a tuber this size. I would suspect we'll get a couple more growth points. Here's another great example where there's a couple eyes already growing, like here and here. Sometimes if you're having a hard time deciding which way is up, look for a stem. They all have eyes. That's exciting. Sometimes I've gotten mixes from other places, not Eden Brothers, which is why I buy a lot of stuff from there. No eyes, and they're really suspect in growing. Okay, so as you can see, I've just nestled all of the tubers in these repurposed pots. Now what I'm going to do is get some potting soil and just cover them up so that there's an inch or two of soil above the top of it. So as you guys can see, this is another one that's a little too low. So I'm going to start by pulling it out and adding just a couple bits because this guy tended to fit in here very well. It doesn't matter if you have a growth like this. Mine just were screaming to be potted. I'm a little worried about what I'm going to find when I get my dahlias out of storage, but that's a project for next week. And as you can see, I'm just kind of gently covering. Here's that thing. I need like an inch or two of soil. Get it covered and make sure you label it. Let me show you one more time how I do it. Here's another one that I'm going to add a handful more of soil. Nestle it back in carefully, trying not to break those delicate necks. You'll see that this is an odd shape, so I'm going to lean it, add some soil under it, and then lean it back, nestling it in, trying to preserve those necks. Oh, and you'll see they actually just knocked over a growth point. However, that's probably still a good spot that another one will come out. So, do I wish I hadn't done that? Yes. Is it a big deal? No. So again, adding some more soil. I kind of go like this to get it down. This soil's actually, it was outside and it's pretty damp. So I'm not going to water these in because you don't want them to get too wet until you see the first signs of growth, new growth in the year. And this is a temporary thing for my dahlias, just to give them kind of a jump start in the year. My hope is that if I had a long growing season, I would definitely plant these directly. This year, with some of the ones I saved and divided, I'm going to run an experiment where I try that to see exactly how much sooner I get blossoms if I start them inside. It's something I just was always told with the zone I live in that I should do. Yeah. So this guy, again, he had a growth point. It's okay to cover them. They'll find their way to the surface. Tap it down. Label it. These are not ones that I'm going to add vermiculite to, just because I'm not going to be watering them, so I won't have the same issues with fungus and mold that really comes with damp soil. So I'm going to be very careful with this because it doesn't have a lot of meat. Nestle it down and cover it up. Just a tiny bit more. Tap it on down. And that is my last one. Okay, so here's all the seeds we just started. I haven't watered them in yet. I just have this pump sprayer that you can see I've labeled water only, that hopefully that happens. It's just filled with water that I'm just going to lightly spray on top to get the vermiculite kind of wetted down so it's not sapping water out of the damp soil, and to provide a little bit more extra start for the seed. So I have this thing, I always like to do the first little off so I see how fast it's going. I've already pressurized it, and then I just kind of from a distance go like this. Get it nice and watered in. It's already pretty damp. It doesn't need to be like because we pre-moisten our soil, that's really where the seed gets its start from. It doesn't need to be completely saturated. Okay, the last thing to do, which is pretty good because we're losing some daylight, is to actually move these in under my grow light systems, get them covered with some humidity domes. For some of them, we're going to get them started with some heat seed mats to give them a jump start. You'll see me do that, and then I can kind of explain my setup a little bit more. So we've actually run out of time a little bit today for me to give you a full tour of what I've already got started. But I do want to show you how what we just planted ended up on the shelf. So what I'll do is next week I'll actually do a video where I give you a tour of my seedlings, and then hopefully by then some of the seeds we planted today will be up. So let me quick show you where these ended up, because you might have seen we had to do some rearranging to get everything to fit because I have limited light space. This is a bamboo LED light system from Gardener Supply Company that stays up all year round right here in my kitchen. As you can see, there is some space. I could rearrange just a little bit more, but I really wanted to get some humidity domes on these big ones. They're obviously not on perfectly, but something is better than nothing. So I'm going to leave these on, and we'll just make sure that they retain some of their moisture. But here's where the sticks, pumpkin, and squashes ended up. These are all the Kajari melons, and then down here we got all my zinnias, and then all of the vegetables, and these are properly domed and they're on heat mats. So that is what it looks like now with some other stuff. I'll briefly just show you. I also have seeds over here, which is where the dahlias ended up. They don't need light yet anyway, so these guys are in good company, and I could create more space in here if I wanted to. These are my normal tomatoes. These are some like smaller size ones that you could tell just did not take well. I thought it was like a food thing, but then these are the cherry tomatoes. Yeah, I'm glad I restarted. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Really looking forward to being able to move everything outside later this month. I hope you guys have a happy Mother's Day, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.